Hello and happy new year. This is a event report after the Mega Battles event we've just held here at the TSN Arena. We had 24 people turn up with 3,000 point old world lists to battle it out to become the champ of like the biggest event, but not the biggest amount of people, the biggest number, right? Anyway, super cool. And this is what the video is all about. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into all the information. So first off, if we look at the BCP listing, you can see that we had quite a diverse group of armies here. Lots of dwarfs in attendance, but there were a smattering of some fun legend armies. We had some lizard men, we had some Skaven, we even had some ogres. When I decided I was going to do a 3,000 point event, it kind of happened when I was already running another old world event. I spoke to everyone and said, it would be cool if we did more points. And everyone's like, we should do 3,000 points. I was like, no one would ever come. And immediately it sold out, which is pretty interesting because obviously that's not, the quote unquote standard format. More points means more models on the board, which is pretty cool. But I was a little bit concerned that we would end up with this very odd dragon heavy meta. But we only really saw one army that had any dragons at all. The theme of the weekend was definitely huge blocks of infantry. This is also the way a lot of people are dealing with the dragon problem in the old world already. We're seeing this from obviously dwarfs. We've seen this from our poison blocks of tomb kings or orcs and goblins, specifically the goblins. But I think this just gave a lot of people the opportunity to take a lot of extra toys that they don't always take. I'm going to include a link down below to the BCP link so you can go check out all the lists of the event and see what your favorite were. Now I'm going to give you my kind of like vibe from the weekend. I'm recording this only about an hour after having run the event. So obviously I was walking around across the whole 2 day. It was 2 days, 5 rounds. Actually, maybe that's the first thing I should say. Originally, I sold the ticket saying it was going to be 4 rounds over 4-hour rounds for 4 rounds, 2 on each day, 2 on the Saturday and 2 on the Sunday. But as we got to the event on the day, I spoke to everyone and said, hey, everyone, I'm going to try and run this like a 5-round event and see if we can fit all of the games into the right time frame. And I said, if anyone does have a problem with that, please do come and see me and we'll see what that schedule looks like. And I think that actually ended up being a really sensible decision because while the first game definitely overran in a couple of places, as we got towards games 4 and 5, people were finishing their games with sometimes an hour left on the clock. So I think that kind of worked. And I want to thank everyone at the event for putting up with me kind of like pulling a last minute switch on them, which I know, like, I'm sure some people will say that wasn't right to do, but I spoke to everyone and I said, if anyone has any problems, let's, talk to me about it. But I think it worked really, really well. And I think people were more happy to play more Warhammer than play less Warhammer because I think 4-hour rounds actually would have been way, way too long. They would have been nice and casual and pretty relaxed. And maybe that's just something for the future where we do a casual GT where it's meant to be really slow and really chill. But definitely people were able to get their games finished as well, which I thought was super interesting. First round, a little bit slow, but after that, people were nailing it and they were getting their games done. And I think the general feedback I got was that people were very happy to play 5-round 3,000 point. The actual vibe of the event, like I said, big blocks, loads of big infantry blocks all around the arena, loads of different people playing those, but that wasn't the only thing that was in attendance. We did have the big triple dragon list, which we'll talk about in a moment, but I think mainly what people said was it gave them the opportunity to take more toys. They got more of the extra stuff that they don't normally take because it's pretty mandatory to take a level 4 wizard. If you can run a monster, maybe you're going to run a mounted character or a mounted monster as well. Then you've taken your core. That's most of 2,000 points gone. With the additional 1,000 points, you were able to take a ton of extra stuff. Yes, you needed more core, and yes, you had the opportunity to take even more characters if you wanted to, but there were more magic items, there was more stuff on display, and generally, the game seemed really, really interesting. Also, I think the game on the tabletop looked more like the old world or the 8th edition fantasy that I remember. There were more infantry blocks. There were more cavalry units. There just seemed to be more on the board. Obviously, there was more on the board. What a stupid thing to say. There was more stuff on the board, but it just looked right, especially when I was looking at Jack's ogre list. Jack was running a pretty cool ogre list. He had a big gut star. He had Mournfang. He had some iron blasters. And I think it was super cool. And I caught up with Jack and asked him what his experiences were playing with his big unit of ogres. Joined by Jack. Hi, Jack.
Hello.
The best Ogre Kingdoms player ever?
Seems that way.
Only.
There's 2 at this event.
That's true. So 3,000 points. You decided to bring ogres. How come?
Well, obviously I've run ogres the last couple of events. I'm just enjoy using something that other people look at the army and think, I'm going to steamroll this. And then actually, I've managed to find a way where I'm managing to get the wins. And the good wins as well, like I'm not getting 9-11s, I'm getting 15, 16, 17, 18, 9, 20 nils. So it's nice to have something that just, and a lot of people aren't seeing ogres, they're not playing against ogres, so it's nice. I think it's just nice to have them around.
I agree. Like, it's been really nice to see it as like a different thing on the board. So 3,000 points. Like, what was in your list?
So it's pretty much my standard list, which we talked about before. So big block of iron guts, a couple of iron blasters, and then character heavy in the iron gut plus and a load of cats. So I basically just added 2 units of Mornfang for this event and a third iron blaster and a couple of extra guts in the bus. It was pretty much my usual list, but I just had some flanking threats basically with the Mornfang this time.
So you used to play 8th edition. My kind of takeaway from this is that it feels like the board felt more like how 8th edition looked. Yeah. What was your kind of thoughts about playing 3,000 points now? Like, do you have a kind of TLDR or like some key takeaways? I didn't play anything where I thought suddenly, obviously a lot of characters are 0 to 1 per 1,000 or something like that. I didn't feel like I went into anything that had suddenly become super overpowered from having that 3rd character or stuff like that. Obviously we had the triple dragon list, which has done really well, but that's doable at 2,000. Just not quite as tooled up. But yeah, I enjoyed it. But the only issue is, I had these flankers with my Mornfangs. There's just no space to flank because the board was so full every game. Especially the Battle for the Pass, I set up against Kev Skaven and he had just 6 ranks of rats, just filling the board, and I just had to churn through, so that was good fun. Do you think you would play that at 3,000 points or a larger points value again?
Yeah, definitely. I think the 8th edition settled on 2,500.
Yeah.
Which I think would work well for this because it would stop people getting that 3rd special something or other. So the lists would look like the 2,000 points, but hopefully they'd get filled up with a bit more infantry or a bit more cavalry or something, so with those extra points, so you're not suddenly just getting another character to fill that gap. It's just expanding the army to make it look like a proper army rather than the small skirmish armies that we've tended to see up to this point.
I agree. Well, thanks very much, and I hope you have a great New Year.
Thank you. You too.
So I think, people were very excited to be playing with all of their big units and taking extra toys that they don't normally get to take. And as you heard from Jack, the general consensus were, I think people would play 3,000 points again. I also was able to catch up with Toby. Toby was running a super cool Lizardman list with loads of different skink units. He had lots of skinks, he had lots of pterodons, he had lots of ripperdactyls, and he was running around and generally causing a menace over the weekend. He won 2nd coolest army, so we'll go look at the army shots in a moment. But for now, let's just catch up with Toby and ask him what he thinks of playing a 3,000 point event. I'm joined by Toby.
Hello.
Toby was playing Lizardmen. Toby, tell us what was in your list.
It was mostly just a flying circus with 12 ripperdactyls, 8 pterodons, and a ripperdactyl chief. Then there's obviously 2 carnosaurs, a bucket of skinks, and a slanner of some temple guard.
If it was a circus, who was the clown?
Me. I'm trying to make an army work with weapon skill 2, combat, flying, cavalry, impetuous.
Explain the ripperdactyls a little bit to us.
So what happens is, the web skill 2, so if you ever get in, they're probably dead anyway, and then they just bounce off everything and die.
There was an example where you charged 12 of them into, I think, 5 Empire Knights. How did that go?
That went extremely badly. They killed 1, lost combat, and then just ran away for the entire game.
Do you feel like Lizardmen are in a tough position from a list writing perspective?
I think so, yes, because you're kind of forced into just carnosaurs and skinks, so that does carry it a lot. So if you're taking anything else other than that, none of it really does that much for a lot of points.
That makes sense. 3,000 points. So you played a lot of Old World last year. I think you got 6 or 7 events in. Yeah. So what do you think of the game now? It's scaled up to 3,000 points.
I think it's interesting because armies were Lizardmen, where you kind of want to take the Temple Guard for your slan to protect it. You can take that and still have a bucket of skink, so it's quite nice to have. Mm. But then there are some armies that get the massive bricks that you can't always deal with. So
yeah, we had a very massive brick meta.
There's a big, massive brick meta there. So it's just you either deal with a big brick or you don't and you lose. Well, it's not always the best end result, but it's still interesting to do.
Do you have a favourite game from the day?
It's probably when I charged the Ghost Dwarfs, because I found out the amazing tactic of using skink scouting to hide ripperdactyls behind the skinks. So they just run up the board, but you can't see this massive flying ripperdactyl behind a skink. and then the skinks get shot off, the protectors charge, and then they fail combat. So it's great.
That's great. Would you play like a higher points value game again?
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. Thanks very much, Toby. There was one standout moment, I think, of the tournament for me personally. Definitely one of the scariest units, or one of the scariest armies that we saw, was this giant block of Chaos Warriors. Matthew Clayton was running a Sorcerer Lord that was a level 4 wizard with battle magic. He then had another level 4 Sorcerer Lord with demonology. He had an Exalted Sorcerer with that was a level 2 with battle magic, and an Exalted Sorcerer that was a level 2 with battle magic. Then he had an Exalted Champion, who was the BSB, and a Chaos Lord, all in one unit of 62 Warriors of Chaos, which is 1,122 points. Then he had 2 units of 3 Dragon Ogres, making it a legal army where he had 3 units that he could deploy. Definitely, in 4 of his games, it was an impossible brick to destroy. And obviously, this was a good example of taking the format to its silliest conclusion. However, what he really couldn't handle was Stephen Toll's Chaos Lord on Dragon. I don't know if you know this, it causes terror, and when you get charged by a terror-causing unit, you have to take a terror check. This is a leadership check, and then if you fail it, you do indeed fall back. However, if you have a giant block of Warriors of Chaos and you deploy straight into your territory, it's actually quite hard not to be right near the edge of the board. And this terror check made the entire unit with all of the characters, so the only things that were not running off the board were 2 units of 3 Dragon Ogres, all run off the board in the first turn. Pretty incredible stuff. Pretty incredible stuff. So I think that was definitely the highlight of the event. Talking about the dragon list, we should take a look at Steven's pretty aggressive list that was really, really fun. He was running the Chaos Lord on a dragon with the Mark and Nurgle, and then he had 2 Favor of the Gods and the Crown of Everlasting Conquest. A Chaos Sorcerer Lord that was also on a Chaos Dragon with 2 Favors of the Gods and the Talisman of the Carrion Crow with Demonology, and then a Sorcerer Lord that was a level 4 wizard on a Chaos Chariot. Then he had 4 units of 6 Forsaken, 3 units of 5 Marauder Horsemen, 3 units of Chaos Warhounds, and a Warp Fire Dragon, and 2 gigantic Chaos Spawn. Yes, 3 dragons. Although you can run 3 dragons, not with quite as much equipment, but you can run 3 dragons in 2,000 points. And definitely this was a nightmare army. Steve was also able to play round 4 against his son, Jack, and that was super fun as they were having a real big fight where the Empire were trying to hold off the dragons and they were unable to do so. However, Stephen wasn't able to win every game, and it did get right down to the wire in the final match where Jack, with his Empire gun line, was able to take out the dragons and score enough points to win the event. Jack's list was a General of the Empire on Imperial Griffin with 2 heads, another General of the Empire, a level 4 Wizard Lord with 3 Power Scrolls and the Law of Illusion, a General of the Empire with a Ruby Ring of Ruin and the Dragon Bow, 3 Engineers, 2 lots of 10 Empire Knights, 12 Empire Archers, and 2 units of 7 Empire Archers, then 3 Great Cannons and 3 Hellblaster Volley Guns. Jack's first game was a draw, but then he was able to win all 4 of the last matches and was able to win the event. I was able to catch up with Jack and ask him how he felt, and we made a special extra large trophy for this event because obviously it's the mega battles, everything's bigger. I'm joined by Jack, who's just won the 3,000 point mega battles. Jack, how you feeling?
Yeah, great.
Yeah?
Feels good, mate, yeah.
So you were taking the old Empire. What made you play that in 3,000 points?
I'm just back to Empire, playing them as my main just because the journal's out. So I wanted to get some reps in before the chaos of the journal. Yeah.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. And you brought a lot of guns. Obviously, you're going to be playing loads of knights in the future, I assume. What did you face, and what was in your list?
So it's basically my old Empire list, which did pretty well, but added on with 1,000 points added on. I basically tried to squeeze in the stuff that I couldn't get into 2K. So that was the stuff that I bought ages ago and could never play. So I got the Steam Tank in, added another Hellblaster in, and another Battle Chicken. So, yeah.
Cool. And you pretty excitingly, your final game, you were up against 3 dragons. Tell us about how that match went.
Yeah, it's a really strong list at 3K. It's target saturation just off the scale. So there's a Warpfire Dragon, 2 2 Chaos Dragons, then the Gigantic Spawns as well. So I just tried to bring the targets down, tried to take it off what I could, and got. To be honest, mate, the dice were with me. My Mirage went off 3 turns on the trot. He was failing regens, so the dice gods were with me, mate.
Can you explain what Mirage does specifically to help your list?
Yeah, it ruins ruins lives, Mirage. It's 11 to cast spell, so it's a big boy spell. So bring the power scrolls out for it. It basically traps their 600-point monster, -2 to their move, can't march or charge. So it just takes away that agency for their piece that's usually just folding your lines, like sweeping you, and you just get another turn of shooting to bring it down, yeah.
And they can't get rid of it because it's a Vortex template, right? They can't get rid of it because you're too far away.
Mirage.
Oh.
Mirage is the one that traps it.
Okay.
The Column of Crystal's the other win condition, where if you've got a huge Death Star, you plonk that in the line that they're coming at you, then the wizard kites, so they basically have to roll an 11 to get that off the board of their Fated Dispel. It just stops their 1,500 point Death Star from doing anything the whole game.
So now you've smashed it with the Empire at this event. What are you going to play from the new journal?
I'm going to go Knights of the White Wolf. Just full send army.
Going to grow your hair out like The Witcher?
Absolutely not. I tried that last year. But no, I'm a technical, the cannons, movement, like chess kind of, no, just, it's going to be full send.
Full send all the time.
Send it, yeah.
Perfect. Welcome to 2025. It's a full send year.
It's a full send year.
The best thing about Mega Battles was we just got to see more miniatures on the board. The games looked absolutely epic, and I was able to get loads of great footage over the weekend, and also I was able to film the armies when they all got set up on the Sunday for voting for Coolest Army. Coolest Army is done by player votes, and which is super cool. That means everyone gets to decide what's the coolest. We don't do best painted, although later in the year we're going to start doing best single miniature. That's mainly because I personally am not a very good painter, and actually whenever I went to events at any point, I always felt a little bit excluded from the best painted section because I'm not a painter. And also painting armies is quite hard to do incredibly well, but making a cool army seems a bit easier. So we do Coolest Army, and that's player voted. Now, if we take a look at some of these armies set up, the first one we're going to look at is Kev's incredible Skaven army. He had this amazing Doomwheel conversion with a picture of me and Val and little rats on it watching this show, which is cool. And then you can just see some old school Skaven with some of the modern Skaven sculpts being used as unit fillers. Now, if you've watched the show before, you'll see Tom's incredible dwarf army, which I just think is one of the cleanest dwarf armies out there. It's just so neat and absolutely brilliant, and his kings look amazing. Here we can see the triple dragon threat that was Stephen's awesome army, but I think it looked really great. The Tufts really sold it. The Warpfire Dragon looked great, and the Archeon on the base was actually incredible. I can't believe that even stood up. And a big shout out to the Chariot Wizard. That looked cool too. Gaining second place for Coolest Army was Toby's Lizard Men, and you can see here loads of 3D prints as well as some original GW minis. Having won Coolest Army before, it's no surprise that the absolutely brilliant Beastman army belonging to Tom Carley is just gross and impressive. And I've got an absolutely massive amount for Tom's Vampire army. I think it looks super cool, and I really enjoyed his games over the weekend. He looked like he was just having the best fun. Shout out to Richie from Dowie After Dark. Again, his dwarf's looking brilliant. I know he said that he's bringing a new dwarf army next time we see him, so that's going to look super cool. I absolutely love James Brewerton's army. It's one of my original Warhammer Fantasy armies, and it's just so ace, especially the characters that have clearly had a lot of attention and detail spent on them. His giants were also super unique and very cool. Nicholas's insane Orcs and Goblins army with that massive Goblin brick looked ace, and it was so fun seeing. I love the Doom Divers and even brought the merch, the Goblins a Real Hat. Sam also had a great Dwarven army, and I was especially a massive fan of his character on a bear and his Goblin Hewer. Our best sport, Alex Shaw, shout out to Alex, also brought another fantastic Lizardman army, which I thought looked great. But the winner of it all was Kev with the Skaven that we saw at the beginning. Super cool army, very thematic, very fun. And if you ever play Kev, he's just one of the nicest people that you want to hang out with at an event. One of the things I'm really pleased about is we've started doing TSN Arena rankings. I hold an old world event at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. We've got team events coming up. In fact, actually, I'll include a link below to our website, the tsnarena.com, where all our event tickets are available. But one of the things I'm really excited about is we're doing venue rankings, which is fun. If you win a game, you get 10 points. So every game you win, you get 10 points. If you get a draw, you get 5 points. If you get a favorite sports vote, you get 10 points. And if you get a coolest army capped at 50, then you get 10 points as well. So there's basically 50 points up for grab from each section, which is cool. And at the end of the year, we're going to be giving out some prizes and shouting out all the people do well at our events. But I think I should shout out the current TSN Arena champion is Alex Shaw with 110 points, who drove home with Tom Bradley in second place, which is cool. And it's really nice doing a best overall, or at least giving some idea of who is, fulfilling all aspects of a hobby. Not that other people aren't fulfilling aspects of the hobby, but it just gives you some indication, right? I think that's a thing we're talking about. So yeah, I love this. I love that we're doing this. I'm super happy with this. I think this is super fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more names on there and people being like, yes, being their friends and being slightly higher in the little chart that means absolutely nothing, but it's still super fun. So to conclude, I think definitely there's a conversation I'm going to be having with Val about points values for our old world games. I think maybe having more points on the board might help deal with some of the large characters. Obviously, also, we've got big rumors that in January, we're going to be seeing missions and restrictions to how the game works, which we covered in another video before, all coming from Games Workshop. But the 2,000 point conversation, we're a year into the old world now, and, putting a 3,000 point game out there, what was it like? I think maybe fitting that into 3 hours is a little bit hard, but 2,400 points, 2,500 points could absolutely be something that people would want to play quite often. And I guess this is my chance to ask you, what points values do you play your games at? And also in the comments below, let me know if you would play a 2,400 point event, 2,500 point event. I think I definitely am going to run another Mega Battles event in the future. I think the feedback I got was pretty positive. I think there were some games that were a little bit slow, but I think other than that, I think a lot of people gave me some really positive feedback and they really enjoyed putting a lot of toys on the board, which I thought was cool. But let me know what you think. And also super fun that we're only on the 4th and 5th day of this year and we've already got a GT under our belt, already got some experiences with what armies are out there, some cool combos. So really looking forward to making some videos with Val, making some videos myself, making loads of content about the old world. I'm really excited for this year. So I want to say a special thank you if you watch our videos or engage with what we do. It means a lot to me. It's super fun. Special thank you if you attend my events. And here's to an amazing 2025 for the old world community, and to all of you. Thanks very much, and I'll see you soon.